Let's talk about Oath, dude. Let's talk about it. Tail of the tape. Oath is going to be a 2020 release. Cole
I
Worley.
would bet no.
2021?
Yeah. I mean, look, with what's happening with the Chinese factories right now, I think you should add 3 months to everything, and I think they have it coming out in like September, October. I would put it.
I guess it's true. We don't really know with COVID-19 what's going to happen.
Yeah,
so.
I'd put it at January, February. But yeah, either way.
Yeah, maybe
You'll have it in a year.
Maybe exactly. You'll have it in a year. It is.
Oh shoot, no, their estimated delivery is January 2021.
Oh,
so yeah,
forget about that.
It could be next spring.
All right, so a year from now-ish, we should be seeing this game. We're going to have some plays under our belt by the time we get there. This is the Cole Worley design. As we just mentioned, Cole Worley designed PAX Premier. Matt's number one game of last year. Might have been my number one game of last year.
If Barrage didn't exist.
No, if my rating criteria would have allowed it.
Oh, I see.
It's because it was a remake of an earlier PAX Premiere. I disallowed it. It was not something that I could do.
Different enough. But
well, the moment you said it was different enough, I was like, yeah, you know what? It probably is. I probably should have, but that wasn't where my headspace was when I was coming up with my list. So,
sure. Most famous for Root. A game that I adore. That I think the biggest problem with that game is it requires regular play. It's almost Gloomhaven levels of like you need to have a regular game group that plays it to get into the meta of it, which probably kills it for our group. But it's a game that and the new I really want to play the new expansion with you because he has rebalanced everything, and there's a completely new system for the way that you pick the teams that play against each other. There's 3 new maps. I always found the original map to be a little boring, and the new maps have really fun rules. I think it's something we should take a look at.
I'm in.
I think it's also something that deserves a review. The new factions and the new boards.
Okay, I have no problem with that. I think I agree with you 100% that my issues with Root isn't just that, but to a large extent, it's every single time somebody is learning how to play a faction, and we're never getting
That's
a great play.
That's why I hate it. I know, because they're always going like, all right, after the game, well, now I've learned it. Now, we should play it again, so now I can actually play. To me, it's a Paul Satachik game in that it is a game that is as much about the players at the table as about the game. It's really a game of diplomacy and factioning and making teams and backstabbing, and it is a social game. I mean, it's a game that you almost want to play with the same headspace as Avalon.
Yeah, I think that's largely true. I do think that because it's a race game. Multiplayer race games have issues.
Yeah,
they have that. So many of them get down to that position where everybody needs to stop player A or they win right now. And then because we stopped player A, we spent a little too many resources, and therefore player B was able to sneak in and get that win. And that is a problem with that kind of design across the board.
Right. And you could say the exact same thing about every PAX game too, which they're also, specifically sort of races to specific things where you can see it's about to happen and everybody can try to stop it. But to me, I think Cole really likes those kind of end resolutions because they become exciting knife fights. But I think the better you get at those games, and Root as well, it's knowing that that's going to happen, knowing that you're going to be in position to win, and making sure that your engine and everything you have can deal with that much pressure on you in that last round and still win.
Totally agree. The only thing I'll say about that is that lots of times that it doesn't matter how great your engine is. It has to do with what is the timing of how many resources people are spending to stop you.
Yeah. Well, hopefully that comes down to balancing. So we'll take a look and see what he's done. Let me explain Oath.
Tell us about Oath.
So Oath is, when I said I hate teaching Oath, it's because one of the main ways I like to teach is to teach games to gamers. And gamers usually have frames of reference for things. I can go, this mechanism is like this from this game. This is like this. I'm out in the wilderness with Oath. I can almost point to nothing in this game and go, it's like this. Everything is like teaching a brand new mechanism in a lot of ways. It's got some packs in it.
It's got but
it's got
a
some
little
John
bit.
Company.
It's got some John Company in it. It's got some Root in it.
Absolutely.
It really does have some of all of those things, but
Not
none
enough
of
where
it,
I can go.
None of it
it's
has more than
this.
20% of anything.
Yeah,
that's true.
So Oath is a campaign-based game that does not require the same group, that does not require any tracking on paper, does not require any legacy elements of ripping things up, but it is a game where every single time you play it, it will change the next game you play. So if Tom and I and a couple people play a game of Oath, at the end of our game, there will be some changes that happen to the game that the next time we play it will make the game play differently, as drastically as the victory condition can completely change. And as minimally as 6 cards from a 50-card deck are swapped out with 6 new cards. And a million other things in between that can be tweaked and changed as you play. Now, I could then go off and play 4 solo games by myself, each one changing the game state, changing it this, then have 4 new people come over. We sit down and play it. The whole point of it is that it's always this long evolving thing. And the theme of it, which is lovely, is that you are watching the generational change of a society. And with the Kickstarter copy of it, it comes with a journal. And part of the experience of the game, I think, is keeping a journal of the way that the world has changed and creating this cool history. This is, in a lot of ways, a game about history and not the history of a specific place, because this is a fantasy world that does not exist, but it is
with the cute animals,
with
and
the
such.
cute animals and
Yes.
root style kind of stuff. But this is a game about history, about how history is created, about how things change, about how the world changes, about how one person can affect the future with rippling butterfly effects that go on for generations, and how then one person has the power to just utterly in one generation change everything again, and how the histories can shape civilizations and what that feels like. So I think
Let's say that the main thing that changes between games, the biggest thing, because locations will be a little different. The order in which different factions are valued is going to change. But the big thing is, what are we competing for? That's the main difference from game to game.
I would disagree.
Really?
To me, the biggest thing is
who's Chancellor?
No. So Tom's talking about changing the victory conditions. There are 4 possible victory conditions, and at the end of a game, under specific conditions, the winner can decide what the victory condition will be for the next game. It might be a game they don't even play,
right?
But they can decide what the next victory condition will be. To me, the biggest thing, and I think the thing that's really designed to feel like, is there are 6 different suits of cards in this game. Each suit is a different play style. Okay, there's the aggressive suit that's all about war. There's the suit that's all about defense, as simple as that, and getting as complicated as there's the suit that's about manipulating magic they all do different things, right? The game starts with a balanced 54 card deck. The winner can take certain cards out from a suit and then go into what will be a minimum 200 card stash that's broken down into suits, and from those suits start adding in new cards. So the deck that starts out is balanced with all different strategies. After game 11 could be 75% one strategy now, which will then the entire game is your cards.
But each changes, 6 cards changed.
Right, but over time the balance of that deck becomes the story of that civilization.
Sure.
This card, the small amount of aggressive cards in there come from a government from 400,000 centuries ago, and they're still there that haunt the deck every once in a while, even though we've done our best to weed those out.
Understood. The point I was making is that from game A to game B, as opposed from game A to game E is a very different thing. But from game A to game B, those 6 cards are going to make a slightly different feel to the game, or maybe not even a different feel at all, because in a lot of games you're only going to see about half of the cards that are in the game. But what will feel like a very strong departure is when the game changes victory conditions.
Yeah,
that is the biggest thing. Changes a huge difference from
A to B.
The game that you just played to the next game that you play.
Correct.
Yes.
But I think the goal of this design is how it feels from A to G. I think that's what Cole's designing towards.
Sure.
So let me tell you about how the game works really quick. Very simply, it's 3 to 6 player game. There will be a solo version. I don't believe 2-player is going to be supported. I don't even know how that would work. I think 3 to 6. We tried 5. That felt like a lot for a learning game. I would never want to try 6 with a learning game. 4 felt good. Haven't tried 3. Probably would feel good as well.
The issue with 3 might be one player plays the Chancellor, and he is the government.
Right. So yes.
Everyone else plays the Exiles, and they are the people that are fighting against the government. So we're all competing for primacy in what we're competing against in there.
Right. It's not quite asymmetrical. One person, the Chancellor, has wild powers, but also a huge negative as well.
Sure. But that's still asymmetric, right?
No. Yeah, but I'm saying, but everybody else has the same powers.
Correct. Exactly right. But the thing is that the Chancellor, and I think this is one of the most wonderful things about the game, can entice exiles to become citizens, to bring them over to my side.
And now your pieces are their pieces, and what you rule, they rule, and they have some of your powers, and you can use. And if they achieve the victory condition, you get the points for it.
Which does a great thing for reducing the threat of the exiles.
Yeah.
But it creates a new threat, which is you are now competing against your own citizen to have the most prestige in your own kingdom. And if you as a unit, because the two of you are together, you are one thing, you represent the kingdom.
Yep.
If the kingdom wins, the player who wins is whoever has the highest prestige at that point, which is very interesting.
And this is not a co-opetitive game. This is not okay, join my kingdom and now we all win together. This is only one person wins. So the Chancellor will need exiles in order to become citizens, because the Chancellor, while starts in a place of power and has a lot of advantages, their biggest negative is they only get 2 actions per round.
I wonder if I needed a citizen to join me in the last game. I was in a good position. I was messing around and exploring the space, but it was a game that sort of was coming up roses for me as Chancellor.
Yeah,
which from what we're hearing anecdotally isn't generally the case. We're hearing that a lot of Chancellors playing this game seem to have a tough road of it.
Right. As an exile,
and the reason is, let's just say the reason. The Chancellor has advantages. The Chancellor's advantages are that he has all of these,
or she,
he or she. The Chancellor has more. They have more units than everybody else, so they can put more units on the board in various places.
And they start the game ruling in a million places.
They start the game ruling at least 2.
Yeah.
They can also attack anywhere they have their units.
Right.
Whereas
usually,
everybody else has to have their main piece, their pawn has to be in a location in order to attack that. They have other special abilities, like their popular support is doubled in the most popular category, mm-hmm. So they get a bump in terms of that as well. So they have a lot of advantages, but they have one crushing disadvantage. The exiles get to take 3 actions per turn, and the Chancellor gets to only take 2.
Right. So you are 33% weaker than everybody else.
And as we all know from playing Euro games, I mean, action economy is probably the main economy of most games, or at least one of the most important things. Getting extra actions is almost always important, right. And the Chancellor has no way to do it.
And thematically, it's beautiful. You are in your castle, and you cannot get out there and do as much. You've got to rule. You're mired down in the day-to-day goings on of a bureaucratic system, and you are going to need to entice people to go and do your bidding, and if you want to win. But then by offering them power, they now have a chance to usurp you, and you have to worry about them.
And invariably it works this way, because in the first game Matt was the Chancellor, in the second game I was the Chancellor. Dimitri, I would very much like you to stop being in exile and join me in this kingdom. We can share power together. Aren't you tired of sleeping in the mud? Don't you want to come in? Don't you want to join me? And of course, Dmitri, even though he promised that he would be open to it, never even entertained it for a second. Now, of course, he was playing very well, and he was close to winning on his own. But that said, I got Elder, though. I got Elder. And now the thing is that when Elder was going to come over, of course, everyone else says, don't go, don't join him.
Yep.
Because look, he's got 8 prestige, or he's got 9 prestige, and you start off with 0 prestige. You're going to get crushed. So I have to make a deal with him. I have to say, okay, Elder, I'm going to give you 5 prestige, which means you're going to go up to 5, and I'm going to go down to 4. So if you join my kingdom, you're going to start with more prestige than me. In other words, if the game were to end right at this moment, when you join, you win. Right. And then we have to figure that out.
And then you each have to have your own little secret ways of sneaking prestige out while still pretending to be friends. Because if the Chancellor doesn't win, it doesn't matter how much prestige you have. You both lost.
Exactly right.
So you're fighting for prestige, but you also need to win the game together.
Yeah, we have to help each other. We have to work together. But at the same point, we have to work together. And yet, I got to be doing a little bit better than you.
Okay, so what can the Exiles do? The Exiles, then, they're trying to win the normal game. But that's going to be tough because the Chancellor is already stronger at winning the normal game than them, and can start enticing other people to help. And then once the Chancellor has citizens, good luck winning the game the normal way. The Exiles, though, and this is my favorite little bit of theming, they can have a vision of a future government. A vision can come to them as a magic card in the deck into their hand. They can have this vision and see what a future could be, what the world could look like in 100 years. And if they can bring that vision to life, they instantly win the game.
These visions have a different backing to all the other cards in the game. In our case, we just mark the sleeve. Yeah. But it means that when you're drawing the initial cards, when you hit a vision, you stop. Yep. You take that vision, and that is it.
And everybody knows you have a vision. Now, they don't know what vision you have, though. And the visions, there are 4. There's 5 because one of them isn't actually a game end condition. It's just a one-time card.
One of them is a bonus as opposed to a vision.
Right. But the 4 visions are the 4 different possible victory conditions. And so at any time, an Exile could flip that over and say, if I achieve this victory condition, I win. Now, they can't do it until 3 visions have been seen, which is also a nice bit of theming that some time has to have passed. There has to be multiple people who have their own differing views of how the future could be formed. Once 3 visions have been seen, at any time, at the end of your turn, an Exile can flip over that card and go, if at the beginning of my next turn, I am winning by this victory condition, I instantly win the game. But
which means everybody else gets one shot at you.
One shot to take down the king. Now, what this also means, though, which I love, is that you can't sleep on any victory condition. Because at any point, someone could flip over that card, and if you've been ignoring that victory condition the entire game, you're not going to, in one turn, be able to deny them that.
Which is why I thought I was doing pretty well, because I got the Dark Secret victory condition locked up. Yep. I had a lot of territory, so no one was going to grab that from me. The one that we were competing against, the main victory condition for our game, was popular support, and I was crushing that as well. Yeah. It was in pretty good shape.
Yeah. Against a bunch of noobs who never played the game other than me.
Sure. Elder ended up winning the game because I had him join my team, and I gave him too much prestige and didn't realize he had a prestige engine of his own to play.
Yeah. And Elder won. You made him a citizen, and then he snaked it from you. We've given a good enough an idea of how the game works, what it feels like. Let me tell you quickly how I feel about it. So I'm wildly enamored with the game. I am very excited at the prospect of a game that I, as the owner of the game, will track the history of this world and see how it changes. And maybe when I bring it to the table with some new people, I can quickly bring them up to speed. Oh, we had this man this person who ruled with an iron fist, and it was this brutal, evil, battle-y world. And then that person was usurped, and now we have this very sweet, kind, sort of intellectual society now, where all we care about is the stock market and who's more pop. Then we have this really superficial world where all that mattered was who was the most popular. And
I want to be cooler.
And then people became obsessed with the dark secret, and it became the one ring that everyone was willing to murder for. And you can get these great stories, but also I really enjoy the mechanics. We didn't even get into the military battle system, which is absolutely bizarre and insane. And instead of me going, Tom, I'm attacking your army, I decide what I want my life's work to be. And I decide throughout my life, I want to conquer this piece of land. I want to make Tom move to another place. I want to steal the dark secret, and I want to destroy that army. And you pick all the things you want to do, and then you find out if you actually can do them all.
And the more things you choose, the greater chance that disaster will strike.
You'll get none of them. Right.
Bad things will happen.
The campaigning action is fascinating.
It is very good.
The stock market, which exists where all 6 suits have sort of a value that is a closed economy, much like Pax Pamir, and you decide where the money goes by putting it on certain cards to do actions, and that can totally fluctuate the value of different suits. That's brilliant. I love that. I hate teaching this game. My one hope is, because it's a long teach, It's an arduous teach, and any new player you teach it to is going to have a rough game. And
Gotcha.
That's how I feel. So I'm really hoping that there is some streamlining in the rules, and in a way it can be taught. The graphic design needs a little work too. It's hard to read from a distance all the cards you need to be reading and all the things on the locations. But I am very, very excited to explore this game. And I love the fact that it's something I can explore as a solo player and then bring it to a group, try it with 3 players, try it with 6. Will it have the same problem as Root, wherein if you're not playing it 12 times a year, it's going to just collect dust? Possibly.
My view is a little more nuanced on it so far. We're 2 plays in, so nothing here is definitive, but here are my thoughts. I love the asymmetry of the game. I love more than Root, this has a very asymmetrical play in that one person represents the state, everyone else represents the people that are fighting against the state, but I can corrupt you and bring you over. And I don't corrupt you through actions. I don't corrupt you through card play. I don't corrupt you through getting some marker up to level 10 and then I corrupt somebody. It is not gamified. It is diplomacy.
Yeah.
I love that. I think that's absolutely fantastic. I almost wish that the Chancellor was more different. I almost wish that becoming a citizen made you more different than you were as an exile.
Yep.
I wish there were more disparity between the two styles of play. But that's a minor niggle because I think it's a really great thing. I think it's a really well done thing. As far as what you're saying about 5 plays later, this card is in here because of this thing that happened. The problem with that is kind of the problem with these games in general, which is that really only is going to speak to somebody that has played a lot of them.
Right. No, I agree. So this to me is a game where that's a 54 card deck, and every game you see 25 to 30 cards of it. Now, if you and I played 8 games of it, we would know that deck very well.
Yeah.
We would know, that card. I won a game with that card before, right? We would have relationships with those cards.
And we had a relationship with one card because it came up because I got it two games in a row.
And when 6 new cards come in, when every time one of those new one comes out, it's like, that's a new spice to this soup, right? And so to me, that is a very exciting thing and something that Cole said was his favorite part of Pax Porfiriana. If you read, and I highly recommend you read Cole's designer diaries for Oath. If you go to Oath's page on BGG and you click on news, you will see all currently 16 of his designer diaries. It is a fascinating read on his life's work of this. He's been working on this game since he was very young.
I already looked at it.
Yeah,
I did. I didn't read them all, but I read some of them. I saw the Pax Porfiriana,
saying that he loved that there was this huge card stack, but he only plays with he will play with one chunk of the deck and he'll play with it for months and then he'll swap some cards out. And so that was sort of where he came up with this idea. He loved the relationship we had with those cards, and then when you add some new ones in, it's like so many new strategies.
Yeah, and actually this game reminds me more of Pax Porfiriana than it does to any of the other Pax games, because there are literally in Pax Porfiriana there are 4 factions, and by factions in that game there are 4 ways to win.
Yep.
And at any given point, you are doing great in one faction, in one win condition, you're doing horrible in another, and you're doing mediocre in two, depending on the way you go. This game plays very similarly. I like very much that there is a victory condition that is grabbing the most territory, that there is getting the most popular support, that there is getting the royal favor, and that there is one that deals with magic, which is a rare resource that you can get by eschewing the other main resource, the influence resource. Instead of getting influence, if you're getting enough influence, you can instead get magic, and that's a very interesting thing. My biggest problem with the game right now is the cards and the way the cards work. This game is full of blind drawing, and I think it might be an issue. You are constantly, you don't have a hand of cards. So I don't have cards that I'm looking at in my hand. When it is my turn, if I want cards, or if I want to do something with cards, I have to blind draw them. I have to look at them. I have to read each card and get to know them. And then I have to play. That impacts the pace of play until people are familiar with everything. Yep. And we should never go into assuming that. That's a problem. The other problem with that is that in terms of play, that is a very reactive play style as opposed to a planning play style. It is very hard to plan when a lot of what you're doing is going to be dependent on blind card draws and the luck of the draw and what you're getting.
Right.
And you can't plan on that. To use the example of PAX Premier or any of these, the PAX games have a line of cards that are available. There's a market out there of cards that you can choose. And as you're playing, as other people are playing their turns, I'm looking at the cards that are in that offer and trying to strategize, what am I going to do next turn? Which of those am I going to target? Which of those do I hope nobody else takes? Which are the ones that I have to play against because somebody is going to grab them? Yep. And a large part of the game is strategizing on that. We don't have any of that here. We don't have a hand of cards, so I can decide what I'm going to play on a future turn. And we don't have cards that are visible and face up that are cards that I can get. And because of that, it creates a weird situation that for me might be a bit of a problem because it's things that it's a major part of the game is something that is completely blind to me until it's my turn, and then what I get, and I just have to make the best with what is right there. And it just, I don't know. It's a problem for me.
Let me speak to that. So first thing, I couldn't agree more with, and this is my biggest negative with the game right now, is I think there is an action in the game, which is the action you're doing more often than not, which is the search action, or I think they've changed it to being called the play action, where you draw cards from a deck and then look at all those cards and pick one. Now, what happens very often in the beginning of this game is you draw 6 or 8 or even 10 cards. And that person then sits there and reads 6 or 8 or 10 cards and picks one. And
it's even worse than that because you could use a lot of your actions to draw 8 cards. You pick up one card, and then the second card is a vision card, and that ends that action. You've wasted all of the rest of that because blind luck just happened to put that in your...
That doesn't bother me because if you're doing that early in the game, you're taking a huge dumb risk, maybe. Because you know there's 2 in the first 12, so you should be able to do the probabilities on that and know your chances.
Well,
but
the probabilities would say go for 6 cards, and then you get in a very unlucky situation if the second card is a vision. Maybe. But anyway, go ahead.
But to me, one of the biggest problems is, and if anybody at Leader Games who's listening, if I was to beg you to look into one section of this game in the next year, it is how can we solve the downtime of people just sitting there while somebody reads cards and picks one. And they shouldn't be rushed because that is a huge decision they have in front of them. And I don't want to make the person feel rushed, but I don't want to sit there in silence for 2.5, 3 minutes while they pick 1 out of 10 cards. And that happens almost every turn for at least the first couple rounds of the game.
Yeah, and frequently at various points when there's been disruption, that's the main action to get back in the game.
So, but here's something that I do like that I think speaks to what you're saying is you don't have a hand of cards, but you have 3 cards that are yours, and most of them are kept face down. So you do have strategy that nobody knows about. You have plans that you should. And I think a big part of the game is never flipping cards up until you have to, and keeping those strategies down there and keeping them for yourself, except for ones you need for economy. But you also have the tableau of this game is a communal tableau. It is a shared tableau. You may control certain cards at certain times, but you can also move your pawn to any location, and now you control all those cards just by moving there, which I think there is a lot of strategy to that, because when visions come out, the cost to draw no cards becomes so prohibitive so quickly that after 25 cards are in the game, that's it. Like, nobody else can afford at that point, without ditching their entire turn and resting, in order to even see like 2 or 3 more cards. And then something we didn't mention is when you discard, there's no discard pile. The discard pile is in the world, and it flows downstream from where you are. So,
which is a very good mechanic, the way that is done. I agree.
It's dope. So if you then want to draw cards, you either draw them from the main deck, where you could hit a vision and waste some energy, or you can dig through the discard pile of where you're at and look at as many as you want at a normal cost. And those are cards that other people have already seen, maybe cards you've already seen. You might ditch a card, move, and go get that card. So, and then at a certain point, after a couple rounds, there's only 25 cards in the whole game. And that's the closed economy. And I think it's not hard to...
There could be many more than that. But what you're saying is you're saying
it's
that
hard to get more than 25.
Because of the math of how expensive the draw becomes as visions come out, it becomes harder to get past 25. Let's not tell people that's at all a hard and fast situation.
No, it's not hard and fast, but I think an average would probably be 25 to 30 cards that are seen in a game. So to me, that's not a huge amount, and I think there is some strategy in dumpster diving for cards you've dumped or other cards people have dumped.
Listen, one of the 4 victory conditions that could be the main condition of the game is popular support, which is the one we played with last time. We played territories for the first one. We played popular support for the second one. In popular support, you're not keeping those cards. The 3 cards that you can keep in your tableau, you're not keeping them face down. You are almost always going to keep them face up,
right?
Because you need them for popular support. Right. So one of the 4 ways to play the game, you're not keeping that tableau a secret at all.
But then the game becomes about manipulating the different stocks, right? Yeah. And so then it becomes a game about stealing the darkest secret, which is another one of the victory conditions, because the darkest secret allows you to mess with the stock values. And so
my point is, I agree with what you said. If leader games were to look at this in a way that, if you wanted to back away from rules lock, I would love to see if there's some thought that can go into doing something to address the blind draw issue. If there is a way, in any way, shape, or form. I mean, looking at the PAX games, to have those 12 which, by the way, is the exact same thing as Through the Ages, right? To have a number of cards that are out there that are acquirable, and to be able to, during your downtime, be building a strategy.
Yeah, that is something we all noticed, is that there's really nothing you can be doing on your turn other than waiting for your turn, because the game is very tactical in how things change throughout a round. And there's very little plans you could be making. And you don't have a hand of cards to be planning the order of so there's very little for you to be doing when it's not your turn. And in a game like that, you want fast turns. What you never want is somebody drawing 8 cards and going, "Give me a minute, guys," and reading 8 cards and picking one,
which is what we have. Now, let's just say the fact that Matt and I are having such a boisterous discussion of this is because we really see a lot of promise in this game.
Oh, it's fascinating.
So even though we're discussing some things that are kind of negatives for us, it is nonetheless a very interesting game.
Worst case scenario for this game. Worst case scenario, it's a glorious disaster. Worst case scenario.
Yes, it is. Those movies that you see that you're like, oh my, Showgirls, right? The things like that, like, what
I love
the
Showgirls.
heck were they thinking? No, I agree.
I'll fight to the death for my Verhoeven.
No, I love it. But I'm saying it is one of those things that is you could see it as a glorious disaster. It's an amazing game because it's so different.
Yeah.
Because he went for something, and he conventional wisdom be damned, conventional game construction be damned. He did something that is very, very different and very interesting.
Right. What's exciting about to me, and I think why I said while I can't say Cole Wehrle is my favorite designer, I can say he's the designer who, if he puts out a game, I'm going to instantly buy it, because almost every game he designs, when I first hear about it, I go, if that's right, that's my favorite game. Like if he did that, that's my favorite game. Like,
and I will say that him publishing those design diaries is fantastic. He is giving us a window into game design that very few designers have done to the extent that he has, which is an amazing thing.
He's clearly very, very, very talented.
Yes, agreed. That was Oath. We will be talking more about this. We're not going to be giving a review for it for a year, because we're not even going to even talk about that until it comes out. But we're going to be playing it more, and as we play, hopefully we'll have this conversation. And
I hope they update
I
hope they. He hasn't promised he will at all, and in fact said he probably won't. But if they do update the print and play, in 6 months, I would be very interested to see what the changes are and to check those out too.
Absolutely.
Hey, if you enjoyed that video, you very well might enjoy the other videos you now see being suggested to you on screen. Also, we'd greatly appreciate it if you could like, share, or subscribe to our Game Brain channel. Thanks so much.